Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere few people dare to imagine. Deep into the scorched belly of ancient Nubia, where gold glittered like mirages and human lives dried up faster than a water skin in the noonday sun. You're not watching from the safety of your bed tonight. You're in it. You feel the sand sting your face. You squint into a blinding horizon, the sun dragging your shadow like a tether across cracked earth. You're not a prince, not a traveller, not even a merchant. You're a debt-laden labourer, sold into this desert camp with the promise of food, water and a copper tool that's already snapped in half. You haven't touched gold yet, but you've inhaled enough sand to fill a camel's ear. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop your city and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stagger forward as your bare soles burn against the ground. The sun's already high, merciless and ancient, and the heat feels personal, like it's angry you exist. Around you, the desert isn't empty. It's cluttered with sharp rocks, bones, and men who look half mummified by their jobs. You're handed a pickaxe with a handle smoother than your best childhood memory, and are pointed toward a gully littered with rock piles that hiss when you touch them. The foreman doesn't speak much, just gestures with a looped whip and a glare. You get the message. This is the heart of Nubian gold territory, circa sometime between 1500 and 1000 BCE, and yes, it's every bit as hellish as it sounds. Egyptian rulers have carved out mining zones here for generations, sending soldiers, prisoners, slaves, and even voluntary workers like yourself into the earth's oven to dig up shiny flakes for someone else's crown. Historians still argue whether this labour was mostly forced or included some paid workers. Either way, you're here and there's no exit sign. The first thing you notice, besides the heat so thick it's chewable, is the sound. Not silence, not wind. It's the groaning of wood carts, the clinking of stone against metal, and the hacking coughs of men who haven't seen water in 2 days. Someone sneezes, and it kicks up a dust cloud that makes your throat close like a jealous ex. You try to drink from your water ration, a goatskin bag that smells like sweaty regret. The water inside is tepid, thick, and possibly alive, but it's wet, so you swallow fast and say a silent thank you to the camel that probably died so you could hydrate. Then comes the orientation, by which I mean you're shouted at in 3 languages and slapped once for standing in the wrong place. You're pointed toward a tent stitched from scraps of old sails and bird skins where you're to rest between shifts. The inside is dark, stinks of sweat and despair, and has a communal mat covered in sand, hair, and mysterious stains. But you don't complain, you nod, you survive. The guy next to you is missing 3 fingers. He smiles and says something about luck. You don't ask. By late afternoon, your clothes are soaked through with sweat, and your shoulders ache like you've been beaten by Anubis himself. But the sun is lower now, and a breeze finally stirs. It's warm, dry, and smells faintly of charcoal and crushed rock. Oddly comforting, until you realise it's the scent of the smelter pit where they burn through what little gold they extract, and sometimes the fingers that held it. A beetle the size of a baby's fist crawls over your sandal. You flick it away, and it lands on a pile of human bones. You're not sure if it's decoration or archaeology. A fellow worker tells you the bones belong to the first batch, men who refused to dig or died trying to escape. You ask if anyone's ever made it out alive. He laughs for 3 full seconds, then goes back to sharpening his pick with a sliver of flint. Your job for the night is simple. Carry baskets of crushed quartz to the grinding station. You lift one and immediately feel your spine reconsider its life choices. The baskets are lined with animal hide, but it doesn't help. The sharp edges cut into your hands and the dust sticks to your skin like regret. You pass men sitting cross-legged, pounding rocks with heavy pestles, their muscles twitching from exhaustion, their eyes fixed on nothing. One of them pauses and offers you a nugget of advice. Don't dream about gold, dream about water. Gold won't wake you up. You nod. That's when you notice something strange, an eerie, silent figure at the edge of the camp, standing motionless beside a cluster of thorn trees. No one else reacts. You blink, and he's gone. Dust ghost, someone whispers later. They say the desert remembers those who break their backs here, and sometimes it sends them back to check on the rest. You don't sleep that night. You just lie there in the pit house, listening to the scraping of rats, the groaning of men, and the whisper of sand slipping through cracks in the roof. Your first day is over, and you're already wondering how your last one will go. You wake before dawn, although wake implies you actually slept. More accurately, your eyes were closed while your body staged a silent protest. Your legs ache in unfamiliar places. Your arms feel like they've been replaced with wet ropes. And your mouth is a dusty tomb. Whatever moisture existed inside it evaporated sometime around midnight. Above you, the sky begins to shift, from ink black to bruised violet to that horrible glaring gold that announces, "Congratulations, you've survived a night in the Nubian mining camp. Now do it again." You crawl out of the pit house, brushing off beetles that have mistaken your chest for a rock. Around you, the other miners emerge, not so much walking as creaking. No one talks. There's no birdsong, no morning dew. Just the sound of limbs stretching and backs popping like reeds over a fire. A man with a whip walks by, scanning the group with all the warmth of a crocodile during tax season. He tosses each of you a piece of bread that could double as a roof tile. It hits your hands and scrapes your palm. You chew anyway. You don't ask what's in it. You're not sure your dignity could survive the answer. And then, without warning, someone yells your name, or at least something that vaguely resembles it. You look up. A foreman waves you over to a wooden crate. Inside, a pickaxe, a basket, 2 chipped ceramic cups, a small knife, and a fresh goat skin of water. You're about to beam, until he says the words no one wants to hear. "That's yours. On loan. Payment due weekly." Oh no. Welcome to the age-old trap of tool debt. You thought you were just here to work? Think again. Before you've earned a single coin or nugget, you already owe the camp 3 days' wages for the privilege of holding second-hand tools and stale rations. Historians still argue whether these mining systems were formalised debt bondage or more ad hoc economic traps, but either way, you're in deep. And here's the twist. You can't work without the tools, and you can't pay for the tools without working. It's the kind of circular logic that would make a philosopher cry, or laugh, or both. A young worker beside you whispers that some miners have been here for 5 years, still repaying the same tools. You laugh until he shows you the scar on his shoulder where a collector marked him. It's not decorative, but you don't have time to complain. The day's already begun, and you're told you'll be working in the eastern shaft, a crumbling corridor barely wider than your shoulders. It goes deep. How deep? No one knows. One man says it leads to the edge of the underworld. Another says it connects to an old burial shaft. Either way, you're expected to fit inside, breathe the air, and come back with something shiny. So you do. You wedge yourself into the tunnel, scraping your elbows, bruising your knees, and praying you don't encounter a snake, or worse, a cave-in. You grip your pick and swing at the stone, each strike sending vibrations up your spine. It's so dark your torch feels like a joke, a single flicker fighting a mountain of shadow. You find nothing, then less than nothing. Then, was that a glint? You scrape away layers of rock to reveal a narrow seam of gold dust-bearing quartz. It's not much, but it's enough for the foreman to stop muttering curses at you. He snatches it away and nods. You're allowed to keep your water. Not drink it, just keep it. Outside the shaft, the sun is now high enough to boil a lizard in its tracks. The rocks glow like embers. You cover your head with a cloth that's already sweat-drenched. Every breath you take feels like swallowing dry flour. You're dizzy, nauseous, and somewhere deep inside you start hearing a low hum. You think it might be your pulse, or maybe your soul packing its bags. By noon, you collapse next to a boulder and watch ants fight over a drop of something sticky. You'd kill for something sticky. Instead, you get a half cup of gritty lentil mash and a stern glare from the cook. That afternoon, you're sent to haul tailings, the rocky leftovers from earlier extractions, down to the dry riverbed for washing. You pass a group of kids, no older than 12, using flat stones to crush fragments into dust. One of them sneezes and blood sprays from his nose. No one stops. You keep walking, and somewhere you think, this isn't survival, it's just the absence of dying. At the riverbed, dry for months now, you pour the dust over a woven sieve, Shake it back and forth, then pan it with slow circular motions. A few glimmers sparkle. You grin, then you remember. You don't keep anything. You don't even see it twice. The overseer takes it all. He might say thank you, if he wasn't busy chewing on a date and pretending he's royalty. You rinse your face with the leftover water and immediately regret it. It smells like iron and something older, like the inside of a dead animal. A miner beside you chuckles and says, "That's from the priest's goat well. Holy, but not hygienic." By sundown, your arms are jelly. Your legs feel hollow. Your stomach is trying to digest itself. You limp back to the pit house, only to find someone's taken your spot. You squeeze in anyway. No one sleeps comfortably, but no one complains either. As you lie there, listening to distant drums from the watchtower, warning of bandits or maybe just the end of another long day, you close your eyes and wonder if the gold you touched will end up in a king's tomb or someone's tooth. You already know the answer. You'll never know. You're up again before the sun, if only because the snoring miner beside you rolled over and used your face as a pillow. You sit up slowly, joints popping like they've been cursed, and realise something astonishing. You're actually looking forward to the walk to the mines, because it means you won't be in here. The air outside is still cool, by desert standards at least. You breathe it in deeply and almost feel alive. Almost. You stretch, and every part of your body protests, but not loud enough to stop you. That's the thing about surviving here. Your pain eventually becomes just another background noise, like the buzzing flies or the occasional distant scream. Today, you're not going back into the shaft. Someone must have decided you earned an upgrade, or maybe they just need a warm body elsewhere. You're assigned to a small outcrop near the base of a cliff, less like a mine, more like a patch of rock that someone decided looked suspiciously glittery. You're introduced to an old miner named Tehenut. No one knows how long he's been here. Some say since the last pharaoh. Tehenut's skin is leathered like cured hide, and his eyes have the shine of someone who's seen too much, and also inhaled a lot of powdered stone. "Look," he says, pointing at the rock face. "See that shimmer? That's not sunlight, that's hope." You squint. It's definitely sunlight. He laughs. You'll learn the difference. Oh, he teaches you to look for the gold-bearing quartz, the white veins that run through the dark stone like old lightning scars. When crushed and washed, they sometimes yield dust fine enough to be called treasure. Sometimes. He shows you how to gently test the edge of a vein with your blade, how to listen for the tone of metal on gold. You pretend to hear the difference. You don't. He knows you don't. But he nods anyway. This is what the ancient Egyptians called nubenset, or gold of the mountains. Historians still argue whether the Nubians taught the Egyptians gold mining or the other way around. But it's clear both civilizations knew this was a land that bled wealth, if you cut deep enough. And boy, are you cutting. Tiernut gives you a pickaxe so battered it looks like it fought in a war. You strike the stone, again and again, feeling the vibrations in your teeth. Every strike throws up a little cloud of dust that clings to your skin, your lashes, your tongue. It tastes like burnt paper. It makes your nose bleed. You wipe it away with the back of your hand and keep going. An hour in, your muscles are jelly. 2 hours in, your skin feels like it's been fried in olive oil. By mid-morning, you've found a sliver of something shiny, so you scrape, dig, and offer it to Tehenut, who squints at it and frowns. "Pyrite," he grunts. "Fool's gold." He tosses it aside, and you feel personally insulted. That rock and you had bonded. You gave it a name. It was going to make you rich. But no, just more sparkly disappointment. He shrugs. "Don't worry, everyone marries their first pyrite." You laugh. Mostly because crying would waste water. The sun climbs higher, and the rock face you're working on starts to radiate heat like a furnace. You touch it briefly and instantly regret it. You shift your cloth head wrap tighter and squint toward the cliff's edge, where a few vultures circle, as if they've got a bet going on who's next. Tehenut tells you stories while you work, about miners who struck big and vanished, about one who tried to smuggle gold dust in his hair and was found mysteriously missing his head, about a woman who claimed to see spirits whispering directions to the richest veins, only to dig her way straight into a nest of vipers. He leans close. The mountain remembers, and it doesn't like thieves. You believe him. Because right now, this doesn't feel like just a job. It feels like a test. And not just of strength, of loyalty, fear, endurance. At noon, someone brings around water rations. You get half a cup, warm as bath water and flavoured with dust. You sip it like it's wine, savouring the moment. Then you get back to it. There's no such thing as a lunch break here, just shorter periods of agony between longer ones. Later, you and Tehnut drag the crushed rock back toward the wash pit. On the way, he points to a set of markings etched into the cliff wall, tiny animal shapes barely visible. "We call those digging spirits," he says. "Miners leave them for luck. Some think they come alive at night." You raise an eyebrow. "Have you seen one?" He doesn't answer, just smiles and keeps walking. At the washing pit, you join others swirling pans of dust and water trying to coax out flecks of gold. One miner nearby gets lucky. 2 glints in a single pan. Everyone stares, but no one congratulates. He tucks the flecks into a leather pouch tied to his wrist with a strip of sinew. You know that later someone might try to cut it off. Maybe not tonight, but soon. You try to wash your own dust, but it yields nothing. Tehnut shrugs again. Some days you feed the gods. Other days they feed you. As the sun begins to dip, turning the cliffs into jagged orange teeth, you finally get to rest. Not in the pit house tonight. Tehnut has a small dugout near the outer camp. He lets you stay there. Says you've earned your dust. You lie on the sand, your back against a flat stone still warm from the day. Above you, stars begin to blink into the sky, bright and strange. And for the first time, you start to think, maybe you can survive this. But then you hear something. A whisper, a breath of wind, carrying words you don't understand. You sit up, but there's nothing. Just desert, just shadow, just the ghost of the mountain maybe, reminding you who's really in charge. The wind wakes you long before the sun does. It's not loud, just that eerie kind of breeze that feels like it knows something you don't. You blink your eyes open to a sky smeared with purple and ash grey, the stars still lingering like gossiping old women. Tehnut is already gone. Only a faint imprint in the sand tells you he ever lay beside you. You stand, stretch, and your muscles scream in protest. It feels like someone took your bones out, ran them over with a chariot and put them back in upside down. You glance around the camp. Still quiet. The pit house sleepers won't be roused for another 10 minutes, unless the foreman gets bored and starts cracking his whip early again. You get a head start walking toward the tool shed, if only to delay the inevitable. Today, you've been assigned the same task as yesterday. Strike the quartz face, haul rock fragments, wash, repeat. It's almost comforting in its predictability, until you realise your arms might actually fall off. You reach for your assigned pickaxe, yep, the same one with the cracked handle and questionable scent, and make your way back to the outcrop. The sun is already sharpening its blades. By mid-morning, you're knee-deep in broken stone, swinging like your life depends on it, which inconveniently it does. That's when you meet the grind crew. These are the poor souls who take what you dig and reduce it to powder. Their job is to smash, pound, and grind every fragment into something fine enough to sift for gold. They work in pairs, hunched over stone slabs with pestles that look like they were stolen from a temple altar. One of them is a woman, older than most, hands like gnarled branches, and a gaze that could cauterize a wound. Her name is Nebtu, and she doesn't bother saying hello. She just grabs your rock basket and grunts. You watch them work. It's almost hypnotic. The rhythm, the repetition, the dust curling around them like ghosts. Every breath they take coats their lungs in microscopic shards. You cough just from watching. They don't even flinch. "Don't breathe through your nose," Nebtu says without looking up. "You'll bleed faster." You follow that advice immediately. Historians have documented this stage of gold processing in great detail, especially in ancient Egyptian and Nubian mining systems. Workers use stone mortars and pestles for hours each day, reducing gold-bearing ore to the consistency of flour. The dust was both precious and deadly, and you're about to join in. They hand you a stone mallet that feels like lifting your own tomb. You start pounding, cautiously at first, then harder. The rock resists at first, then begins to yield, shattering into sharp edges, then chips, then dust. It's progress. It's also agony. Your fingers go numb, your elbows tingle, your shoulder feels like it's about to rip off and go home without you. Around you, the others keep grinding, coughing quietly, eyes sunken but steady. Nebtu stops for a moment and pulls out a cloth. She wraps it around her nose and mouth. "This isn't for comfort," she mutters. "It's to fool the dust, You mimic her. It helps. A little. By late morning, your lips are dry and split, your throat tastes like the bottom of a sandal, and the air feels heavier than stone. You whisper a joke, something about breathing being overrated, and no one laughs. That's when you realise they probably used up their humour back in year 1. One man, squatting beside a bucket, suddenly stands too fast and collapses sideways. Everyone stops for a moment, then keeps going. He's breathing, just dizzy. The foreman walks over, looks him up and down, then drags him out of the sun by one ankle. You don't see him again that day. After another hour of grinding, the dust is collected and carried to a windsifting station, where women shake it through layered baskets and goat hair sieves, hoping to trap the glittering bits that separate life from starvation. You lean on your pestle, heart pounding, back slick with sweat. Someone offers you a sip from their water pouch. You take it, thank them, and almost gag. It's sour, funky, possibly fermented. You drink it anyway. That afternoon, you're moved to hauling duty. You take baskets of that precious dust, now fine as smoke, and walk it down to a shaded alcove near the priest's quarters. There, it's sorted, weighed, and recorded on a tally stick. Your name is carved in next to a symbol that looks vaguely like a goat with an arrow through it. You're told this means 3 baskets, no bonus. Great. By now, the sun is hammering the earth like it owes him money. You wrap your head again, dip a cloth in the sludge bucket to cool your neck, and try to think of shade. But there is none. A miner nearby jokes that you could fry fish on the rocks if only fish existed here. Then he adds, deadpan, you're the fish now. It would be funny if it weren't so painfully true. Late in the day, the foreman brings news. One of the smelters has died. Heat stroke. That's 2 this week. You look at your hands, still dusty, blistered, trembling. You wonder how many more the camp will claim before the next supply caravan arrives. Back at the pit house, you lie on the ground and close your eyes. Your skin still radiates heat, as if you've been cooked from the inside. Your chest rattles when you breathe. Someone coughs beside you. A dry rattling sound you've heard a dozen times today. But this one ends in silence. You don't dare open your eyes. Instead, you drift into a half-sleep, imagining your own bones, years from now, bleaching under this same sun, maybe found by a future miner who'll say, he didn't dig fast enough. You'd laugh if your lungs weren't so full of dust. You wake up choking, not from smoke, not from fear, but from dust. It's in your nose, your throat, your eyelids. You could probably sneeze and pan the result for gold. Someone nearby mutters in their sleep, then coughs so hard it echoes like a drum roll in the darkness. Welcome to the morning ritual. Wake, cough, curse softly, survive. You drag yourself up and out. Your legs are jelly. Your mouth tastes like you licked a pile of sun-baked coins. You don't even bother checking for breakfast. You already know it's the same. Dry bread, warm water, and a glance from the cook that says, don't ask for seconds. Today, your assignment is listed simply as pulverizing. You already thought you'd done that, but no. Now comes the fine grinding stage, where the already dusty ore is further crushed into powder, so fine it could pass for ghost breath. You're led to a large flat stone where 2 older workers are waiting, pestles in hand. Their cheeks are sunken, and their cloths are stained with old blood around the nose and mouth. They nod grimly. One pats the stone. Your lungs will love this, he says, then starts pounding. You join them, every motion shaking your bones. The pestle feels heavier than yesterday, or maybe you're just weaker, probably both. And then it hits you, literally and figuratively. You're breathing death, not metaphorically, not poetically. The air around you is thick with powdered rock, rich in silicates and metal particulates. Historians now understand these ancient miners faced something akin to silicosis, though the term didn't exist then. What they knew was simpler. The more you grind, the less you breathe. And you're grinding a lot. You try to hold your breath, but it's no use. You start coughing, deep, dry, ragged. It doesn't help. You feel a tightness in your chest that doesn't leave. It's like the desert has reached in and grabbed your lungs with a fist made of sand. One of the older grinders tells you about a man who used to sing while he worked. Loud, beautiful songs, echoing through the valley. Then one day he just stopped. Couldn't get the breath anymore. Died 2 weeks later. They say he's still heard on the wind, humming a dusty melody. You smile weakly. That's your 3rd dust ghost tale in 5 days. You're starting to wonder if you'll become one yourself. You take a break, by which I mean you fall backward and lie on a flat rock, arms outstretched like a mummy mid-unwrapping. You stare at the sky, which is a shimmering white now, thanks to the constant haze. No clouds, just glare. A hawk circles above, eyeing the camp. And then you notice something weird. The rock you're lying on isn't just a rock, it's carved. Faint, worn glyphs. Barely visible, but there. A few triangles, maybe a sun disk. You ask about it, and an older miner grunts. Old prayer stone, for lungs, doesn't work. Still, you touch it, just in case. In the afternoon, the foreman assigns you a new task. You're to join the stamp mill team. They've set up a crude contraption, a series of poles that pound ore under heavy stone blocks driven by nothing but muscle and misery. You're the muscle. Misery's already in charge. The system, though rudimentary, is ingenious in its brutality. Historians have identified similar devices in ancient Nubian and Egyptian mining sites. Stone pestles mounted on levers, driven by a team of men who lifted and dropped them rhythmically, hour after hour. It's a team of 6. You're the new guy. They hand you a lever and point to a beat, up, down, up, down. You fall in line. Within 10 minutes your shoulders burn. By 20 you're drenched. By 30 you stop feeling your arms entirely. You're just a part of the machine now, and the machine doesn't care if you scream. During a brief pause, someone hands you a cup. It's not water, it's a concoction of honey, herbs, and something gritty. Good for the lungs, he says. You drink it. It tastes like regret with a hint of mint. You ask him how long he's been here. He says, "Don't ask questions unless you want to stay longer." Fair enough. The rest of the day is a blur of lifting, lowering, coughing, sweating. You don't remember what your own voice sounds like. You think maybe it escaped during one of your sneezes. When evening finally comes, you drag yourself back to the pit house, but not before passing a small shrine. A new offering has been placed, a goat skull, some dried herbs, and a small pouch of what looks like golden dust. You stop. The air around it feels cooler, or maybe that's your body giving up. You whisper a thanks to the gods, the dust spirits, the rock with the carvings, anyone who might listen. You lie down for the night and think, this camp doesn't just kill you slowly, it grinds you down, breath by breath, until even your soul comes out in flecks. You cough once more. This one tastes like copper, and then somehow you sleep. You wake to the sound of someone screaming. Not a long, dramatic kind of scream, the sharp, sudden kind that ends in silence, which is always worse. You sit up, heart pounding, sand clinging to your arms like guilt. Around you, the others barely stir. This isn't new. Screams come and go in a mining camp, like the wind, like the coughs. But this time, curiosity gnaws at you. You push yourself upright and step outside the pit house. It's still early. The stars are fading, but the sun hasn't yet started its daily act of slow combustion. The light is a weak purple haze, making the landscape look bruised and haunted. A group has gathered near one of the latrine trenches. You walk over slowly, each step reminding you that you haven't fully recovered from yesterday's pulverizing. A man lies there, curled like a broken question mark, one hand clutching at his ankle. His foot is swollen, and his face has turned a disturbing shade of yellow. "Scorpion," someone mutters. "Big one." You step back automatically. Not because you're heartless, but because everyone else does, and no one wants to be next. The desert doesn't just sap your strength, it fights back. It has teeth, claws, venom. The rocks are sharp, the insects are armoured, even the plants are rude. There's a shrub here with thorns long enough to puncture a leather sandal, and you did try it once. Spoiler, it did. One of the miners tells you, with the offhand tone of someone reciting an old riddle. There are 3 things you should never put your hand into: a dark crevice, an old sack, and your own boot without checking it first. You remember that too late. Back in the pit house, you find a small black scorpion under someone's sleeping mat. You try to kill it with a stone. You miss. It runs into a crack in the wall, you never see it again. That night you don't sleep much, but now it's morning, and morning means back to work. You're put on ore transportation duty today. That means hauling baskets of crushed rock from the grinding stations to the sieving area. The baskets are heavy, the handles rough, and the paths uneven. You trip twice. Once you fall into a thorn bush. No one helps you up. They're all too busy not dying. You think about that scorpion as you limp down the hill with your 3rd load, still out there, watching, waiting. Your hands are blistered. Your back is one sharp twist away from a mutiny. You stop at the water ration tent where a guard stares at you like you're stealing his firstborn. You get a half cup. You don't sip. You chug. It doesn't help. In the early afternoon, there's commotion near the southern ridge. Someone's fainted again. A heat stroke. The second in as many days. The man is dragged to the shade, given some kind of herbal poultice, and then ignored. You hear someone mutter, "He's already ghosting." You pause. Ghosting here doesn't mean disappearing socially. It means your soul is halfway out the door. And the ghosts here, oh, they're particular. You've heard the stories, whispered after nightfall, that the desert is haunted by miners who died before their debts were paid, that their spirits linger, drawn to those who dig in the same places, that sometimes you can see them just at the edge of your vision, watching, waiting, checking to see if you'll be smarter than they were. Spoiler, you won't. Tehenut tells you about one ghost in particular. They call him Rami the Bleeder. He used to hide gold dust in the lining of his belt. When he was caught, they say his punishment was inventive. No one explains further, but some swear they've seen a figure at night, limping along the ridgeline, dripping red sand as he goes. You laugh nervously. Tehenut doesn't. Even the overseers believe in it, apparently. One of them, you notice, carries a small amulet carved from dark stone. Not for luck, for protection. He wears it close to his chest, never takes it off. You ask where he got it. He says, "From the only man who ever left this place alive." You don't ask more. You already know too much. Later that evening, while dragging your 10th basket of ore, you find something odd. A human tooth in the sand. Perfectly clean. Not fossilized. Just there. You look around. No one notices. You quietly place it in a crack in the rock and move on. At dinner, such as it is, you're served something vaguely bean-like, mashed into a grey lump. It's better than nothing, and probably worse than everything. You eat it anyway. As night falls, you return to the pit house, but something feels off. The air is too still. The other miners speak in hushed tones. Someone's missing. The man who got stung? No one saw him leave. No one found his body. They just say, "He went with the ghosts?" You lie down, pulling your cloth tighter around your head. Your whole body hums with exhaustion, but your mind races. You think of the scorpion, the tooth, the ridge ghost. You think about your own shadow, how it's thinner now, how even it looks tired. You stare at the ceiling, at the cobwebs swaying in a breeze that isn't there. You try not to blink too long. You try not to listen too closely, because the desert doesn't just take your gold. It collects pieces of you. One breath, one drop of sweat, one dream at a time. You no longer wake with a start. There's no strength left for starts. You wake like someone dragging a rock uphill, slow, heavy, resigned. Your body aches in places that don't even have names anymore. Even your fingernails feel tired. It's a mystery how something that doesn't have muscles can still feel sore. And then you remember today is water day. Well, not for you specifically. But a supply caravan is scheduled to arrive from the north, bringing fresh water skins, a few pitiful sacks of grain, and, if the gods are feeling generous, some badly wilted onions. The camp buzzes with low energy and twitchy hope. You shuffle out into the daylight and immediately regret it. The sun is already furious. You haven't even stood up straight and it's trying to flay your scalp. You adjust your cloth wrap, blink at the horizon, and pretend you're excited about the promise of moisture. The water guard is already stationed at the ration tent. You notice something new, a locked crate chained to a post. That's for the fresh caravan supplies. And no, you won't be getting near it. You're handed your daily allotment, half a cup again. If you spill it, you cry. If you cry, you lose more water. You drink like it's a sacred act. And in this place, it is. You hear a joke from a nearby miner. What's drier than this bread? Your chances of leaving? Comedy's different out here. By mid-morning, the camp starts vibrating with quiet panic. The caravan is late. Not unusual, but every hour that ticks by, the collective thirst grows louder than the hammers. You're assigned to basket hauling again. Crushed stone this time. The route is the same. Pit to sifter, sifter to tally station to priest's courtyard. Your legs know the way by now, even if your mind checked out 2 days ago. As you pass the priest's tent, you catch a glimpse inside. There's a man in a fine robe, fanning himself with a woven palm leaf. On the table before him is a ceramic cup beaded with condensation. Cold water? You stare too long. He notices. You're immediately barked at to keep moving. One of the biggest truths of the camp hits you then. Not everyone here is suffering equally. The overseers, the temple scribes, they have hidden water caches, private meals, secret herbs. They don't cough like you do. They don't pass out. They don't die young. But you're the labour. You're replaceable. You reach the sieve pits where the rock dust is being swirled and shifted. Even here, water is limited. They reuse the same muddy pans again and again. The result is a thick greyish slurry that smells vaguely like old coins and regret. You kneel and swirl your pan slowly, looking for that golden glint. Nothing. You start again. Your hands shake. Your vision blurs. You squint at a shimmer. Nope, just mica. Your whole body is betraying you. And then it happens. Your hand slips. The pan tips. You spill nearly half a basket of crushed ore into the dirt. For a moment, the world stops. The sifter next to you gasps softly. An overseer sees. He's on you in seconds, shouting, waving his baton. You stand, stammering, trying to explain. But what can you say? That your body forgot how to hold things? That your sweat blurred your sight? It doesn't matter. He strikes you once. Hard. Across the back. You drop to one knee. The pain rings out like a bell in your bones. You're told to report to the water transport detail for punishment duty. Which, ironically, involves carrying full skins of water up from the dried riverbed's hidden cisterns to the overseer's tents, water you'll never taste. You do it, because not doing it means worse. The skins are heavy. The slope is steep. Your back still throbs from the blow. Your mouth is dry as crushed limestone. At one point, a drop of water splashes from the mouth of the skin and hits your lip. You pause. You consider licking it. You don't. You want to, but you don't. There are consequences. You reach the overseer's tent and drop the skin with a grunt. No thanks, just a nod toward the door. You limp back toward the centre of camp, hoping for shade. You sit under a crumbling mud wall beside an old man who's sketching symbols into the dirt with a stick. What are those? You ask, voice hoarse. Marks, he says. Tally of debts. Yours? He laughs once. Everyone's. You ask if he thinks the caravan's still coming. He shrugs. Maybe. Maybe it's bones now. You don't know if he means the camels or the people. By sundown, still no caravan. The camp's mood shifts. It becomes hungrier, thirstier, angrier. People glance at each other with suspicion. Did someone hide water? Are the overseers hoarding again? Is the priest lying? You go to sleep with your cloth wrapped over your nose, not just for the dust, but because it makes you feel slightly less exposed. You curl into yourself, every muscle begging for something cold, something wet, something else. You dream of rain, and then wake up sweating. Of course, it's the middle of the night when you bolt upright. Not because of a noise, because of the silence. The camp, usually alive with coughs, murmurs, and the restless groans of bodies trying to find peace, is dead quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. Then you feel it. Heat. Not the usual stuffy warmth of pit house life. This is hotter, heavier, almost thick. You glance to the entrance and see the flicker. Flames. You scramble to your feet, heart racing. Outside, a pit house near the edge of camp is on fire. A small one, mostly made of reed and mud, but it's crackling and popping like dry twigs. A few silhouettes stumble around it, half-asleep miners trying to throw sand and blankets over the blaze. Someone yells, "Lamp oil!" Apparently a water carrier dropped a flask of oil in his sleep. The flame caught fast. The pit house had housed 8 men. 2 crawl out coughing. The rest, no one knows. And the worst part? The flames are visible from a distance, far enough to invite visitors, thieves, wild animals, or just more trouble. As the fire is stamped out and the desert darkness swallows the embers, you realize you're wide awake now. So is the rest of the camp. Morning comes fast and bitter. The air smells like burnt reed and scorched hair. No one talks much. The foremen are edgy. The caravan still hasn't come, and water rationed tighter than ever. You're given a third of your usual amount. Barely 2 mouthfuls. One of them you accidentally spill on your wrist. You lick it off without shame. Today's assignment is a new kind of torture, sifting station night shift. It sounds better than it is. You'll be working through the dark hours to separate fine gold flakes from dust under the dim light of oil lamps. And you're only allowed a lamp if you're directly handling sorted gold. Everyone else? You're in the dark. You're led to a dugout section of the dry riverbed, where women and older miners are hunched over layered sieves, each layer finer than the last, designed to trap flecks of gold no bigger than grains of salt. One man shows you how to shake the trays gently, with just enough motion to tease out the heavier particles. You don't rattle gold, he warns, you coax it. There's something meditative about it at first. The rhythmic shaking, the hush of dust passing through layers, the occasional sparkle that makes the heart twitch. But it doesn't last. The bugs come first. Moths, gnats, flies, all drawn to the lamps. And when the bugs come, the predators follow. You swat at a bat that swoops a little too close. Then something brushes your leg. You hope it was a root. You don't look. Your shift partner tonight is a man named Jeru. His left eye is gone, replaced by a polished copper bead. No one knows why. He says it sees better. You believe him. He whispers stories while you sift, about snakes found curled under gold piles, about a miner who swallowed a flake so he wouldn't be robbed, only to die of a blocked throat, about the time the ground opened under a tent and swallowed it whole. Just dust, he says, but deep. You shake your sieve and pretend not to tremble. Hours pass, maybe. Time here is sticky, everything blurs, the stars wheel overhead, the wind picks up. You pull your cloth tighter around your head, keeping the worst of the sand out of your ears. Suddenly Jeru stops, points. There's a faint noise like metal on rock. You freeze. It's coming from the ridge. You both kill your lamps. Silence again. Then movement. Figures. Just at the edge of the camp, watching. Not ghosts this time. Humans. You whisper, bandits? Jeru shrugs. Could be. Another miner joins you, and the three of you watch the ridge until the shapes vanish. No raid comes. Not tonight. But you get the sense it's only a matter of time. You don't light your lamp again. You sift by moonlight. And then, just before the end of your shift, something miraculous happens. In your tray, caught between the last layer of sieve wires, you see it. A flake. Flat. Irregular. About the size of a sesame seed. Gold. You stare. You don't breathe. You lift the tray and tilt it to the side so Jeru can see. He doesn't smile. He leans in and in a voice like gravel says, "If anyone sees that before you turn it in, you'll wake up with scorpions in your mouth." You nod. Carefully, carefully. You use a little bone pick to nudge it into the assigned collection pouch. The foreman standing watch steps in, confirms it's real, and marks your name on the tally sheet with a notch. You feel like a god. A very tired, very sunburned god. Your reward? Nothing. Not today. Not directly. You get a thin slice of extra bread, handed to you without ceremony, and the next time water is passed out, you're allowed a second gulp. Luxury. Back at the pit house, you lie awake a little longer than usual, replaying the moment in your mind, that shimmer, that flicker, that proof that your body didn't completely betray you today. It's not much, but it's yours. Sleep doesn't come easy, not with your heart still beating to the rhythm of gold flakes, not with the memory of those figures on the ridge, not with the heat pressing down like a heavy animal on your chest, and especially not when the morning starts with a whip crack, not a warning, not ceremonial, just the real sharp punctuation of someone in charge reminding you that no one in this camp is free. You jolt upright, breath caught, muscles tight. Around you, others are already stirring, those who could sleep at all. The whip cracks again. Closer this time. A miner stumbles past, dazed and bleeding from a small gash in his arm. You don't ask what happened, you just rise. Today is punishment day. Once a week, the foremen make an example. Doesn't matter if someone actually did something, someone will. It's a ritual of control. Keep the miners afraid. Keep them compliant. Keep them digging. A group of 5 men are lined up near the supply tent. One's accused of stealing bread, another of drinking extra water, a third, no one even says, just that he looked suspicious. You're ordered to stand and watch. Everyone is. A man kneels, a rod is lifted, and the punishment begins. It's not excessive, just brutal, just enough to remind everyone else that it could be them next. You turn your eyes away. But it's too late. The message has already sunk in. The whip is just a symptom. The real disease is despair. Afterward no one speaks. You shuffle to your assignment like cattle. Today it's another trip to the smelters, not to work them, just to carry supplies. Clay pots of crushed ore, bushels of dried acacia for fuel, skins of goat fat and pine resin, everything needed to turn dust into ingots. You've heard stories about the smelters, that they get the worst burns, that the fumes eat your teeth, that some workers go blind. You always assumed they were exaggerations. You don't anymore. As you approach the smelting pits, the heat hits you before the fire does. It's like walking into the mouth of a volcano. Your eyelashes curl, your lips crack. The very air feels like it's about to catch fire. You pass two men bent over a clay crucible, chanting softly. One of them wears a copper amulet shaped like a bird's claw. Protective charm, you're told. The other has a series of symbols scarred into his shoulder. Prayers burned directly into the flesh to appease the gods of fire. Historians still argue whether these chants were purely ritual or part of a proto-religious metallurgy system. All you know is, everyone here believes the fire can hear. One of the workers calls you over and motions for you to help pump the bellows. You hesitate, then obey. The bellows are made of leather and wood, creaking like tired lungs as you press them. Each pump feeds the fire. Each gust sends sparks flying. One lands on your arm. You flinch, but keep going. Then the crucible tips. Molten gold, thick, orange, bubbling like lava, is poured into small stone moulds shaped like bricks. You stare, transfixed. It's the first time you've seen the result of all this suffering. But here's the catch. None of it belongs to you, not even a flake. It's temple property. King's property. Whoever's property but yours. You dare to ask one of the smelters what happens to the finished ingots. He just shrugs. They're carried north, guards, camels, one every 10 days. Ever try to take one? He laughs. Why steal the sun if it only burns you? Back at the camp you get a reward for your help. The corner of a dried fig. It tastes like ash and heaven. But the afternoon is far from over. The foreman tells you to report to pit repair. A shaft wall collapsed overnight. A support beam gave out. Probably termites, maybe sabotage, maybe just bad luck. You're handed a mallet and a pile of wooden slats and told to reinforce the tunnel entrance. Inside, the collapsed shaft is a tangled mess of rock, dirt, and crushed hopes. As you crawl in to assess the damage, you hear something odd. Breathing, not yours. You shine your lamp toward the rubble and see a face. Dusty, eyes closed, barely moving. Someone's alive in there. You shout, you dig, you don't wait for permission. The foreman arrives, grumbling, then orders two others to help. You work for hours, hauling rock, shifting beams, cutting through collapsed debris. Finally you drag the man free. He's breathing, barely. You lay him on a mat and pour a single sip of water into his mouth. His eyes flutter open. I saw them, he whispers. Who? The ones who dig without hands. Then he passes out. You don't ask what that means, you just look at the others. No one laughs, no one mocks him. Because you all know, deep down, that this camp is full of things that don't sleep, that don't bleed, that don't leave. That night you lie in the pit house staring at the ceiling, wondering if you'll start digging in your dreams, if you'll wake up with dust on your tongue, if your hands will keep swinging even after your soul has crawled off into the desert. You hope not, but you're not optimistic. It starts with a whisper. You're still half asleep, your brain sticky and sluggish when you hear it. A low, rustling murmur from somewhere near the fire pit. You sit up, heart doing its usual morning sprint, and look around. Everyone else is still asleep, or at least pretending to be. Then you hear it again. The dust is angry tonight. You spot the speaker. An old woman in a faded robe, her skin the colour of burnt clay, her eyes filmy but wide. She's kneeling in the sand, drawing spirals with her fingertip, muttering to herself. No one stops her. No one interrupts. She's the camp's unofficial oracle, maybe priestess, maybe mad, maybe all three. You listen as she mutters about spirits trapped beneath the stone, about gold that remembers who stole it, about ghosts that whisper back. You want to laugh, but you don't, because part of you, just the smallest part, is starting to believe it. After all, you've heard the stories. Everyone has. They call them the gold dust ghosts, souls of miners who died with debts unpaid, or who tried to smuggle dust in their mouths, or whose bones still lie crushed in forgotten shafts. The legends say they linger, watching the living, whispering curses, or warnings. Some say they appear on nights when the wind changes direction. Some say they can be heard in the grinding stones, moaning between the cracks. Some say they wear your face, and today it's your turn to work the early shift at the edge of the canyon. The place the old-timers call the Whispering Mouth. You're not thrilled. As you approach, you feel it. The temperature drops, just a little, enough to notice, enough to raise the hairs on your arms. The canyon is narrow, carved by ancient waters long gone. Its walls are jagged, veined with quartz and strange symbols that look too precise to be natural. Some say this was once a sacred place. Others say it still is. You're here to gather tailings, leftover rock from earlier digs, dumped here because no one wanted to risk going deeper, but someone changed their mind. You and 2 others are sent to shovel and sift through the discarded piles looking for mist flakes. It's tedious, back-breaking work, and the dust here behaves differently. It moves in small gusts even when there's no wind. It swirls around your ankles like a cat you can't see. The first hour passes with only the occasional cough. The second hour, you find something. Not gold, a carved token. Bone, maybe. Smooth, with an eye etched into it. You show it to one of the other workers. He stares. Doesn't touch it. Drop it, he says. That's a watching charm. They bury those with the dead. You drop it. You try to forget it. You don't. By midday, the sun is a white coin in a pale sky, and your shadow has shrunk into a shivering puddle beneath your feet. You're thirsty. So thirsty. But no water has been delivered yet today. Another delay. Another excuse. You lean against a boulder, panting when you hear it. A voice. Not clear, not loud, but there. You freeze. It's coming from the canyon wall. You turn. There's no one, just the rock and the dust. You listen harder. It's a whisper, like wind through reeds, but more rhythmic, almost like words. You step closer, and suddenly a chunk of the rock slips loose. You jump back just in time. A small landslide crashes down where you are standing. A puff of dust blinds you. You fall to your knees, coughing, blinking. When your vision clears, you swear you see a shape in the settling powder. Human. Just for a second. Then it's gone. The others are staring. One of them looks pale. You try to laugh. Bad footing. No one laughs with you. Back at camp, you report the near accident to the overseer. He doesn't care. Just tells you to watch where you put your feet. Helpful. That evening, the oracle woman is at it again, drawing new patterns in the sand. This time, the shapes are different. Eyes, teeth, little figures with missing arms. You ask her what they mean. She looks up at you, and for the first time she smiles. They come for those who touch more than they earn, she says, and they always come back for the flakes. You lie awake in the pit house that night, unable to sleep. You think of the carved token, the whispering dust, the shape in the canyon, and you wonder, how many ghosts walk among the living here? Not just memories, not just stories, but real ghosts, dust ghosts. Maybe you'll be one of them. Maybe you already are. The sky is the colour of old parchment when you wake. Another day, another chance to lose more of yourself to the sand. You've stopped dreaming, or at least remembering the dreams. Maybe the desert swallowed those too. You're called early to the overseer's table. For a moment you panic. Did someone report what happened at the canyon? Did they see the token you picked up? But no, the reason is worse in its own way. It's payday, or what passes for it in this place. You're handed a flat tablet, clay, small enough to fit in your palm, stamped with a series of notches and a rough sketch of a goat. This, apparently, is your wage. Not money, not gold. A token redeemable at the camp store, which is run by the same overseer who gave you the token. Convenient. You stand in a short, sweaty line outside a tattered canopy with wooden shelves stacked with basics. Bread, dried onions, sandal straps, thread, salt, more of the foul-smelling goat water. Everything priced just slightly beyond your reach. You ask about a clean water skin. The shopkeeper holds it up, sniffs it theatrically and says, "This one's fresh from the northern wells. 4 tokens. You have one." You settle for half a loaf of gritty flatbread and a finger length of dried fish, so hard you could use it as a chisel. You step away, not full, not satisfied, but at least you don't have to gnaw on your fingernails today. The guy behind you tries to haggle. He's slapped across the mouth with a ledger and shoved aside. The system's clear. Earn in scrip, spend in scarcity. Historians debate whether Nubian mining camps were officially organised under these closed economic loops, or whether corruption grew from isolation. But to you, it doesn't matter. What matters is you are now working to repay the tools and to afford the food that barely keeps you working. It's like being eaten slowly, from the inside out. You return to your assigned station, tailings again, and see someone else already working your spot. You start to protest but get waved off. Change of task, a guard says. Oh no, you're directed to a dust run, the worst kind of assignment. A dust run is when you're sent out with others to retrieve abandoned sifting trays from the outer pits. Sometimes they're too heavy, sometimes forgotten, sometimes left behind for reasons no one talks about. You get paired with a trio of men who look like they've been awake since Ramses was a toddler. No one speaks on the way out. It's a long walk, over dunes, past cracked trees, into the dry creases of the earth where shade has never been seen. You reach the outer pit by midday. The sun is a hateful eye in the sky. Your water pouch is empty. Again. You swore you rationed it better this time, but your body just leaks it out faster than you can refill. The trays are half buried, brittle with age. You dig them out with care, not because they're valuable, but because they're full of old dust, maybe still flecked with gold, maybe not. You lift one and a swarm of flies burst from underneath. You swat them away and gag. Something rotted under there. A bird maybe, or worse. One of the men finds a torn cloth and a leather satchel. Inside, a dried chunk of meat and a sliver of quartz still streaked with yellow. Someone didn't make it back, he mutters. No one responds. You haul the trays onto a makeshift sled and start the slow drag back toward camp. It's not just exhausting, it's spiritual punishment. Every step you take sinks deeper than the last. The sand is soft here, almost like it wants to swallow you. You stumble once, hard. Your hand lands on something sharp. You pull back, bleeding. A broken bone. Human. You stand up fast. Wipe your palm on your cloth. Say nothing. No one looks at you. They've all found bones before. As the sun dips lower, casting the desert in long, golden shadows, you feel the familiar burn of dehydration. It's not even hunger anymore. It's a shriveling of your very being. Your lips crack, your ears ring, your hands tremble. Then, just as you're nearing the final ridge, the man next to you collapses. Flat out. Face in the dust. No scream, no sound. You rush to his side, try to lift him. He's breathing, but shallow, irregular. You wave to the others. They don't stop. Keep moving, one of them says. He'll be carried later. But you can't leave him. Not again. Not like the man in the collapsed shaft. You stay by his side, tearing a strip of your already ruined tunic to shade his face. You pour the last of your useless water into his mouth. He doesn't respond. A while later, a pair of guards arrive. One nods at you. Good heart, he says. Wasted effort. They load him onto a stretcher. You're not told where they take him. That night, your only reward is a slightly softer patch of dirt to sleep on and the knowledge that you tried. Not succeeded. Just tried. And in this place, maybe that still matters. Maybe that keeps your name out of the ghosts' mouths for one more night. You wake to a strange stillness. No whip crack, no shouted orders, no rattling buckets or hissing overseers. Just silence. Thick, like it's been poured over the camp during the night. You sit up slowly, every joint clicking like poorly carved joints on a wooden puppet. A few others are stirring too, blinking unsure. Then someone whispers, "Come see this." You follow, dragging your feet across sand that feels unusually cool. The early light creeps across the camp as if it's afraid to touch anything, and then you see it. Just beyond the southern ridge, half buried in a wall of loose rock and clay, is a body, or what's left of one. The skin is dried, shrunken tight across the bones like old leather stretched over driftwood. The eye sockets are dark and sunken, the teeth bared in what looks like a permanent wince. The clothes, what little remains, are ancient. Torn, but different from yours. Not the standard camp scraps, more refined, maybe ceremonial. The strange part? There's no rot, no smell, just dry, powdery death. You hear someone mutter, "Another one." Apparently this isn't the first. The camp priest arrives. Small man, tall hat, permanently displeased face. He kneels beside the corpse and examines the neck. There's something hanging there. A twisted cord with a wooden tag carved with the symbol for debtor. That word hits you like a fist to the gut. This man, this husk, was left here as a warning, and he's still warning. You step closer, and the priest holds up a hand. No further, he says. He belongs to the mountain now. The mountain. They talk about it like it's alive, like it judges. You return to your shift with the image of the mummified miner burned into your eyes. You don't speak. You don't even notice the new blisters until hours later, when blood finally seeps through the cloth on your hands. Today's assignment is a repeat, stone hauling, this time from an older shaft on the outskirts of the southern gulch. You're told to clear out debris from a collapsed ceiling. Nothing dangerous, they say, just routine cleanup. You arrive to find the shaft gaping open like a cracked jaw. No supports, no ropes, just a slope of stone and silence. You and two others take turns with spades and picks, clearing the rubble and dragging it out on broken sleds. One of the men finds a boot, still attached to part of a leg. He drops it like it's hot iron. No one says anything, just more muttering, more ghosts. You wonder if the body from this morning came from here, or if there are more like him inside the mine, perfectly preserved, waiting to scare the dust out of future workers. After a long afternoon of dragging your lungs behind you and nearly losing a toe to a sliding boulder, you return to camp. And for the first time in days, the caravan has arrived. The excitement is muted. No one cheers, no one claps. You just hear the creaking of carts, the grunting of camels, and the murmured prayers of people hoping there's something, anything, inside those crates that might make tomorrow less impossible. You line up for rations. You get one dried onion, a chunk of hard bread, and a small wax-sealed pouch of wine. You're told it's a festival offering. There's no festival. No one knows what the offering is for. You drink it anyway. It burns. You don't care. Later that night, you find yourself drawn to the edge of camp, back toward the mummy. They've left him there, unburied, exposed. A few miners have placed small stones around him in a rough circle. Someone offered half a flatbread. Someone else placed a tiny piece of gold flake on his chest. You crouch there for a long moment staring at his hollow eyes. You wonder if he volunteered, or if he was just unlucky. You wonder what his name was, if anyone remembered it, if anyone wrote it down. You whisper yours, just in case someone needs it later. Then you return to the pit house, but the sleep that follows is shallow and restless. You dream of a desert wind crawling down your throat, whispering in a voice made of sand. It asks if your debt is paid, and you don't know how to answer. The morning is red, not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. An eerie crimson tint soaks the horizon, as though the sky has been rubbed raw. You blink against it, unsure if it's real or just your sun-blistered eyes playing tricks. But others see it too. The pit house murmurs as people rise, bleary-eyed and cautious, casting glances skyward like something might fall out of it. Tehenut limps past you, glancing up with that unreadable look he wears when he knows something you don't. Sandstorm, he mutters, or something worse. You're assigned to supply guard today, one of those rare duties that sounds almost like a promotion. In reality, it just means standing by crates of tools and dry bread with a stick in your hand and pretending you could stop someone from stealing something when everyone knows you're barely strong enough to lift your own water pouch. But the upside, you're posted near the outer gate, and that means hearing things, rumours, whispers, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to overhear something useful. Around mid-morning, a lean man with hollow cheeks and a scar from ear to collarbone sidles up next to you under the guise of checking for spare sandals. His eyes dart, scanning the area. "Still want out?" he asks, like you talked about it yesterday. You blink. "Out?" "Southridge," he says quickly under his breath. "At moonrise. Follow the red markers." You want to ask more, but he's gone before the question forms. You're left staring at a crate of pickaxe handles, pretending to be interested in the grain of the wood while your mind spins. An escape route. The word tastes foreign in your mouth. Soft. Fragile. Could it be real? You try not to look obvious, but you glance at the southern ridge every chance you get. It's far. Jagged. A long way on blistered feet with no water. And there's the matter of the ghosts. Yeah, those again. Because no escape story here is complete without them. Jeru, yes, the copper-eyed veteran is nearby, mending a leather harness. You take a risk. Ever hear of anyone getting out? He doesn't look up. Everyone hears. But did they make it? He shrugs. Some say yes. Some say they saw bones on the dunes. Hard to tell if it's escapees or the ones the mountain calls back. Very helpful. By afternoon, the red haze has intensified. Dust clings to your skin in a sticky layer. It gets into your nose, your mouth, your thoughts. The priest emerges from his tent, chanting something in a low drone, casting powdered herbs into the wind that blow straight back into his own face. He doesn't stop. The workers pretend not to watch. When the shift ends, you're told to return your stick and mark your ration tally. The overseer makes a note next to your name. 1 loaf, 1 portion water, no oil. No mention of loyalty. No sign they suspect you might be planning something. As the sun lowers and that strange red tone deepens into bruised orange, you feel it. The pull. Like the sand itself is whispering, go. You make your way quietly past the outer ovens, past the edge of the main encampment, and toward the wadi where the shadows grow long. Every step crunches, every breeze carries stories. You spot it. A red cloth, tied to a thorn bush. Then another. Markers. You follow them, heart pounding. Each one spaced just far enough apart to make you wonder if you're lost. Your mouth is dry, your knees ache. You still carry your tiny ration of water, untouched since evening. Then you reach a ledge. Below, a dry gully, a narrow crevice cutting between 2 boulders, a gap barely wide enough for a man to pass sideways. You hesitate. Someone steps from the shadow. It's the man from earlier, the scarred one. He nods. One at a time, you slide down. The stone tears your calf. You barely feel it. In the crack, the temperature drops. The air is still, cooler. It smells like salt and ancient things. The path is narrow and winding. You press against rock, feeling your own ribs. You don't speak. You barely breathe. It opens into a hollow. Moonlight cuts through a gap above. There's a small pool, stagnant but wet. You kneel and sip. It tastes like metal. Like old copper coins. You drink anyway. The man gestures beyond. Keep going. You'll reach the dunes. After that, follow the stars. You start to ask which stars, but he's already gone. You climb. The rocks are sharp, the sand loose, the incline deceptive. But finally, you reach the top, and then you stop. Because what lies before you isn't salvation. It's just more desert. Endless. Dark. Beautiful in that terrible way death sometimes is. You turn around. Behind you. The canyon, the shadows, the screams of men still working in their sleep. Ahead. Silence. And somewhere in between, a voice you don't recognize, your own, whispers, I'm already gone. You stand there for what could be a minute, or a lifetime. The desert ahead stretches into nothing, just a sea of dark waves, each dune shaped like the humped back of a sleeping beast. It's quiet, sure, but not the good kind. This is the kind of silence that dares you to take one more step, just so it can laugh when you collapse. Behind you, the ridge is already swallowed by night. There's no torchlight, no sounds from camp. It's like the mountain itself closed its mouth after letting you slip out through its teeth. You walk, slowly, carefully, 1 foot forward, then another. The sand shifts beneath your feet, soft and treacherous, like memory. After the sharp rocks of the gold camp, it feels almost merciful. But it's not. You know that. This isn't mercy. It's just a different kind of death. The stars overhead guide you. Kind of. You don't know which way is out. You don't even know if out exists. All you know is that the wind's behind you now, and if it turns around, you'll feel the camp breathing on your neck again. Around midnight, you see something in the distance. A structure? No, just a rock. A big one, shaped like a broken monument. You collapse behind it for shelter. Pull your cloth tight around your head. Drink the last sip of your water. It's warm, greasy, still tastes better than the bread. You curl into the curve of the stone and rest. And that's when the dreams begin. You're digging, but not with your hands, with your teeth. Clawing through earth as your tongue fills with grit and your lips bleed. Every time you spit, a gold flake falls out. You want to stop. You can't. The ground is whispering. You still owe. You wake up with your jaw clenched, your mouth full of blood. Not a dream then, just a gift from your own cracked lips. The stars are lower now. The wind has picked up, and on it, faint but there, you hear a sound. Not natural. Metal on stone. A rhythm. You hold your breath, then you see them. Outlines. 3 or 4. Moving across a dune ridge in the distance, too smoothly to be human. One sways side to side like its legs are on backward. Another crawls. Not walks. Crawls. Like it's climbing a ceiling you can't see. You press yourself deeper into the sand, they stop. They turn toward you. No eyes, no faces, just outlines in the dark. You blink, they're gone. Were they ever there? You can't be sure, but your heartbeat doesn't care. You move again, on shaky legs, over another dune, then another. You lose track. Your knees give way at one point and you roll partway down, sand filling your ears, your mouth. You cough it out, taste something sharp. Copper. Again. By dawn, your skin feels like a cracked pot left out in the kiln too long. You've shed tears without noticing. Salt has dried into tiny maps on your cheeks. You laugh once, but it's not funny. Then, finally, something changes. You spot a tree, a real one. Low, scraggly, thorned within an inch of its life, but real. Near it, a circle of stones, an old campsite, a trader's waymark. You stumble toward it like it's an oasis, though you're half certain it's just a mirage. And there, near the roots, something strange. A goatskin. Fresh. Cool to the touch. You look around, no footprints, no tracks. You sniff it. It smells like nothing. Clean. You drink. Sweet. Clean. Impossible. You don't question it. Because you're past questioning. You just lie back against the tree, breathe deep, and let the miracle fill you with a kind of hope that feels dangerous. Later, minutes, hours, you don't know, you hear footsteps. Real ones. Boots. Voices. Not yelling, talking. You blink toward the ridge, squinting in the rising light. Figures, travellers. 2 of them. Cloth-wrapped, armed with staffs, leading donkeys. Traders. They see you. Stop. Exchange words. Then approach. The older one kneels beside you. "From the mines?" he asks. You nod. He makes a face like someone just stepped on his soul. That place should have been swallowed by the sand years ago. He gives you more water, a bit of soft bread, dried dates that taste like heaven. You don't cry. You're too dry for that. You ask where they're headed. "North," the man says, "toward the river." "The Nile." You laugh. Or maybe you just wheeze loud enough that it feels like one. As you ride on the donkey's back, weak, swaying, half-conscious, you look back one last time. Nothing but dunes. No ridge, no mine, no ghosts, except the ones you carry. The river doesn't come quickly. You ride for days, at first on the donkey's back, then walking beside it when guilt gnaws harder than fatigue. The traders speak little. One of them hums a low tune, the same 6 notes over and over again. It's oddly comforting, like he's weaving a spell of survival. The land begins to change. Slowly, almost shyly. The sand loosens its grip. Small tufts of dry grass start poking through. You spot a beetle rolling a ball of dung. Life. Not much, but some. You ask the older trader about the gold camp. He grunts. They take more than gold there. You nod. You know. He tells you the name of the place in his dialect. It roughly translates to "the mouth that eats men." Fitting. Historians still debate whether Nubian gold mining camps were named or simply numbered by the Egyptian state. Some argue they were given euphemistic names to hide the horror, but if that was the euphemism, you don't want to know the original. You pass a stone monument 2 days later, a broken obelisk, half buried in dune grass, covered in faded hieroglyphs. One symbol stands out. A gold circle with rays pierced by a blade, you ask. Temple tax mark, the younger trader explains. All gold dust meant for the priesthood gets blessed there before shipment. Ah yes, the divine taxes, because it wasn't enough that you slaved under the sun, choked on dust, and bled from your fingertips. No, the gods demanded their cut too. Every few days a priest would arrive at the camp cloaked and perfumed, untouched by work, and oversee the ritual. A portion of every worker's yield, whether flake, dust, or nugget, was reserved for the temple. They said it was to purify the gold, to ensure it wouldn't bring curses when melted into amulets or eye rings for nobles who'd never even seen a pickaxe. Some believed it. Others didn't dare not to. You remember watching a priest once dressed in linen so white it practically glowed. He stood on a platform above the smelters, muttering prayers as workers knelt in the dust. One man dared to keep his head raised, just slightly. The next day he was sent to work alone in a shaft no one returned from. Purity indeed. You ask the trader if he believes the temple's share actually goes to the gods. He smirks. Of course it does. Right into their vaults. The next night you camp near a bend in a Drofadi. The moon is low, casting pale silver across the land. The older trader begins to prepare a small offering. A piece of bread, a few drops of water and a shard of polished gold. He places it on a rock. For those who didn't get out, he says. You sit in silence, watching. You picture the faces, Tehenut, Jeru, Nebtu, even the overseer with the useless tally stick. You don't hate them, not entirely, not anymore. They were all inside it, just like you were, just like you still are. The system wasn't just in the camp, it was the camp. It lived in the dust, in the debts, in the bread that tasted like rope, and the ghosts that watched from behind boulders. By the 6th day the river appears, not all at once. You smell it before you see it. A softness in the air, moisture. Then the green comes, sudden, lush, like a secret garden flung open. And then, there it is, the Nile, wide, slow, gleaming under the dawn like a great snake napping in the sun. You fall to your knees. The traders say nothing. They give you time. You wash your face in the shallows. The water is cold, sweet. You drink until your belly aches, then drink more. You tear off the cloth wrap that's been stuck to your head for weeks and let the breeze touch your scalp. You weep. This time there's enough water for it. Later, you ask what happens now. The older trader shrugs. You're free. That's the good news. And the bad? You look like someone who left too much behind. You don't reply. Because he's right. They offer to take you to a riverside village. There's work there. Fishing, weaving, maybe stone cutting. Honest work. Dry work, but without the dust, without the debt. You nod. You follow. But before you leave, you glance back once. Northwest, toward the unseen camp. Toward them. The friends, the ghosts, the gold. You touch the pouch on your belt. Inside it, one tiny flake you somehow kept. Hidden in the seam of your cloth. Just one. You toss it into the river. A blessing. A burial. Maybe both. Then you turn and walk on, away from the mouth that eats men. Towards something else. Something still unknown. But yours. You take the trader's offer. The walk to the riverside village isn't long now, just half a day, following the Nile's lazy curve as papyrus thickets sway in the breeze like they're humming old songs. The air smells alive. Damp earth, distant flowers, and something green you forgot even existed. It's overwhelming, almost suspicious. Your feet don't trust the softness of the soil. After weeks of stone and heat, the riverbank feels indulgent, like walking across cake. The village comes into view around midday, a scattering of mud brick homes with reed roofs, narrow paths lined with footprints instead of boot treads. No guards, no whips, no tally sticks. You're given a place to rest, a tiny square room with a mat and jar of sweetened water. That night, you sleep. Not pass out, not collapse. You actually sleep. And for the first time since entering that gold camp, you don't dream about stone walls or whispering dust. You dream of a fire not destructive but warm, controlled. And you're standing near it, melting something, shaping it. In the morning you ask the village elder if there's any work for someone who knows how to handle gold. He raises an eyebrow. You a smelter? You hesitate. Sort of. He sends you to a workshop at the edge of the village where a man named Beck carves jewellery for the priestesses up north. Gold, bronze, even electrum when he can get it. You show him your hands, scarred, calloused, burned in places where the skin never healed smooth. He nods once and hands you a pair of tongs. You start small, melting scraps pouring into moulds. Your first attempt bubbles too fast and splashes. You nearly burn your fingers. He doesn't yell, just watches. You're used to rushing, he says. You nod. Don't need to here. It's a strange idea. Patience. You begin to slow down. Over the next few days you find your rhythm. Smelting without overseers, without guards, without prayers muttered to avoid explosions. Just skill. And maybe a little bit of pleasure. Beck teaches you to chant, not to avoid curses, but to keep tempo. We call it the furnace song, he says. Every good metalworker hums, even the gods. Historians often debate whether ancient smelting had spiritual roots, or whether the rituals were simply tradition passed down as mnemonic tools. You realise it doesn't matter. You want to sing, so you do. You learn to blend wax and oils to form moulds. You carve with bone tools. You temper with goat fat torches. You even learn to recognise gold's moods, the way it shimmers when it's too hot, the way it clumps when it's tired. By the second week, Beck lets you work a full piece. A small pendant, shaped like a falcon's head. It turns out perfect. You don't know why, but holding it fills you with something you haven't felt in weeks. Pride. You hand it to Beck. He examines it, then hands it back. It's yours, you stare. What for? For not dying in the desert, he says simply, and you understand. Later that day, a traveller arrives with news from up north. He brings salt, dates and stories. One catches your ear. Mining camp collapsed, he says. Wall gave out. Took half the crew. They're sealing it. You freeze. He mentions the location. It's yours. The mouth that eats men is gone. Buried. No bodies recovered. You say nothing. But you sit under the acacia tree that night and remember the ones who couldn't leave. Tehenut. Nebtu. The boy who coughed blood and kept pounding stone. Even the overseer who muttered curses but feared the ghosts more than you ever did. You touch the falcon pendant on your chest and decide to make more. You begin crafting pieces not for trade but for memory. Tiny symbols, pickaxes, coiled snakes, scarred hands. You don't sell them. You bury them in the soil along the riverbank. Quiet offerings, silent markers. One night, as you're pouring a fresh mould, Beck watches you. You're making ghosts? You smile. I'm giving them shape. He nods and never asks again. Over the next few weeks, others come to you. A fisherman whose brother disappeared in the mines. A weaver whose cousin worked the southern shafts. They bring scraps, bits of broken tools, twisted nails, a sliver of melted gold. Make something, they say, so they're not forgotten. You do. You keep your hands steady, your fire warm, your voice humming the furnace song, and deep down beneath the piece a whisper still lingers. Not of fear, not of warning, but of respect. The mountain took, the dust choked, the ghosts watched. But you came back with hands that still make, and that somehow is the final rebellion. You don't notice when your name starts spreading. At first it's just one or two travellers asking, "Are you the one who makes the ghost pieces?" Then it's a merchant offering you 2 loaves and a skin of fresh palm wine for a pendant shaped like a miner's torch. You didn't expect this. You never intended it. But now, in this quiet riverside village, you've become something close to a myth. Beck doesn't seem surprised. He just nods and sharpens your tools when they dull. You lived where others died, he says one evening. People want a piece of that. You understand what he means. They aren't buying jewellery, they're buying testimony. Proof that someone went into the mountain and came out again, that someone remembers. But recognition brings risk. One day, a stranger arrives. Not a merchant, not a villager. He wears a fine linen robe, embroidered with lotus flowers and sun discs. His sandals are polished, his voice smooth as river mud. A temple agent. You know the type. He watches your work for hours without saying a word. Finally he steps forward and holds out a gold ring bearing the falcon god's face. You work well, he says. Too well for a village smith. You shrug. He sets down a scroll, sealed. This is an offer. The temple could use someone with your hands. The scroll lies on your work table like a snake. You don't open it. Not yet. He nods. Think it over. Don't take too long. Then he's gone. Beck says nothing, but you can feel the tension in the room. Like hot metal just before it bends. You open the scroll that night. It offers a title. A house. Stipends. Even assistance. You'd be working gold for priests, nobles, royalty. Not miners. Not ghosts. They want your fire, but not your story. The offer is generous. It is also a leash. You leave the scroll where it is, and the next morning you bury it under the tree where your first falcon pendant was placed. You decide to stay. The ghost pieces become more intricate. You carve scenes now, tiny reliefs of pickaxes, shaft mouths, clenched fists. You inscribe names when you know them, sometimes just initials, sometimes only a mark, a scar-shaped curve, a notch like the tally stones, a swirl for the dust. Then one afternoon, A man enters your workshop with a face you almost recognize. He's limping, eyes sunken. His voice, when he speaks, is barely there. "Tehenut sent me," he whispers. You freeze. "He... what?" The man smiles. "He said if anyone got out, it'd be you." Turns out Tehenut did survive the collapse. Barely. He crawled free just before the shaft buried the others. He wandered for 2 days before collapsing near a shepherd's tent. He's in a village upriver, too weak to travel, but alive. You make a peace for him that night. A coiled rope, broken in the middle, with a torch on one end and a star on the other. You send it with the man, along with the only gold flake you ever kept. You don't need it anymore. The past isn't chasing you now, but it is asking to be remembered. That evening a younger villager approaches you. Thin arms, curious eyes, burns on his fingers already. "Can I learn?" he asks. You pause. He waits. You nod. Teaching is slow. Your patience is new, still a little awkward. You show him the furnace song. You show him how gold softens when coaxed, how fire doesn't obey force, it listens to rhythm. He picks it up quickly. Too quickly. One day, he asks you, "What's the mark for someone who never worked the mines?" You smile. You'll invent it. A few weeks later, he presents you with a pendant he's made himself. It's simple, a circle, empty inside. "For freedom," he says. "For space." You wear it. Not around your neck, but tucked into your belt, where a tally stick used to hang. People come and go. Traders, mourners, survivors. Some bring coins, others bring stories. One woman brings a sack of crushed ore, her grandfather's last attempt before vanishing in a shaft collapse. "Can you turn this into something worth holding?" she asks. You do. You turn it into a sun disk, not for power but for light. She cries when you give it to her. You're not a miner anymore, not a survivor. You're something stranger, something softer, a smith of memory. One night you sit by the river alone, tossing a small pendant from palm to palm. It's shaped like a whip, coiled tight. One of the first you ever made. You never gave it away. You think about casting it back into the water, but no, you bury it instead. The river's too kind, and some ghosts deserve to rest in the earth. You dream of thunder, not clouds or rain. Just the sound, a deep, low rumble, like heavy drums echoing through stone. You wake with your hands clenched into fists and your ears ringing. It takes a minute to remember where you are, not the shaft, not the camp. You're in your small mud brick workshop, a piece of half-finished jewellery still clutched in your fingers. The fire has gone out. The coals are cold. Your mouth tastes like copper and ash. Outside it's raining. Real rain. You haven't seen it in months, maybe longer. It comes down in thick, greedy sheets, pattering against the roof, soaking the earth. You step out barefoot and let it hit your face. Cold, clean, wild. It's not until the second hour of rain that people begin to panic. Because rain here isn't always a blessing. Rain means floods, especially in the dry canyons where forgotten mines still sleep. Beck arrives at your door, soaked through, panting. "The old trade route," he says. "Wadi Road is flooding. Caravans stuck." You grab your sandals and run. Outside the village, the paths have turned to mud. People slip and slide, dragging carts uphill to safety. The Nile itself swells. The river gods are in a mood. At the edge of the ridge you see it, a black line cutting across the valley. Water, rushing where it's never flowed before. And further down the outlines of the camp. Your camp, the mouth that eats men, or what's left of it. Because the flood has carved through the sand and exposed something, not bones, not gold, but structures, walls, tunnels, a partial staircase. The floodwater hasn't just destroyed, it's revealed. By midday, a dozen villagers and traders are gathered around the edge, staring. You descend carefully, your sandals squelching in the mud. And there, half submerged in the water, is a carved doorway. Stone, ancient, decorated with falcon heads and gold leaf so faded it looks like old bruise marks. You run your hand across it, the sand gives way, and then you hear it again, that thunder. No storm this time, just a sound from inside. You step back. Then the ground shifts. A boulder tumbles from above and in an instant the path behind you is gone. You're trapped, Not deep, not yet, just enough to feel the old fear return. You press against the walls, trying to steady your breath. Someone calls your name. You shout back, but it echoes the wrong way. Into the passage. You pause, listen, and then footsteps. Soft, measured, impossible. You back away slowly. But the footsteps stop. You reach for your pendant, the falcon, the circle, anything, but they're back at the workshop. All you have now is your hands. You press forward, ducking through a low arch, and emerge into a half-collapsed chamber. Bits of gold leaf cling to the walls. There's a bench, an altar, and on it, tools. Old ones, familiar, a smith's room. You step closer and see the shape on the floor. A body, curled around a bundle. Your breath catches. You kneel, gently brush away the dust. Not a corpse, not anymore. Just bones wrapped in what once was linen. And beneath the bundle, a small pouch. You open it. Gold dust, still dry, still shining. You hear a voice, not loud, not sharp, just words carried on breath that isn't there. Remember us. Then silence. You look down again. The body is still just bone, still just history. But you nod. All right, you whisper. I will. Later, the villagers haul you out with ropes and shouted prayers. They say you were down there an hour. You say nothing. Back in the workshop, you pour the dust into a new crucible. You light the fire. You don't chant this time. You listen. And when it melts, you don't shape it into coins or pendants. You shape it into a bell, small, plain, with a symbol only you understand carved inside, a circle with a notch broken on one edge. The next day, you hang it on the edge of your workroom door, and every time the wind blows through the village, it rings. Just once. Just enough. You don't tell anyone what it's for, but you know. It's not a warning. It's not a curse. It's a memory. And memories don't flood away. They rise, they ring, and they last. The bell rings again the next morning, soft like someone tapping a memory on your shoulder. You're already awake, sipping warm date tea and shaping a new mould. You haven't had a nightmare in weeks, but you still don't sleep deeply. Not after the flood, not after the passage. The bell's presence is oddly comforting. Not loud enough to disturb the village, just enough to remind you that the ghosts are still listening. Today brings something unusual. A scribe. He arrives mid-morning, robes ink-stained, sandals too clean for someone who claims to have travelled far. His first question is, did you live at the southern shaft when it collapsed? Your answer is slower than usual. I left before it did. He nods like he already knew, like it's a box on a tablet he needed to tick. He carries scrolls, too many for one visit. You recognise the kind, temple records. He lays one out across your table, brushing aside metal filings without asking. This shaft, was it operated under the House of Ankka? You remember that name. It was on the brandy crates, on the tools, on the overseer's arm ring. Yes, you say. The scribe exhales. He points to a symbol on the scroll. There was a ledger error. It says the mine was cleared of all debts, sealed honourably. You raise an eyebrow. It wasn't. He nods again. That's why I'm here. Apparently there's a new overseer in the capital, and she's cleaning house, trying to expose old corruption. She's investigating losses, human and material, from the Nubian shafts. The temple wants records, names, anything that proves workers were left unpaid, tools unreturned, deaths unaccounted for. You laugh once. You're asking me to remember their names? He pauses, then for the first time shows a little emotion, not sympathy, not guilt, something closer to hope. Yes, you walk him to the tree, where you buried your first pendant, the broken scroll, the rope and torch. You dig carefully. One by one, you uncover the pieces. Each one tells a name, or at least a story. You place them on a cloth, 27 in total. You give him all but one. He asks if he can copy them, document them. You agree, with one condition. You copy the meaning, not just the shape. He doesn't understand. You explain. This one's for Tehenut. He dug for 2 decades and never stopped coughing. This one's for Nebtu. She ground stone until her palms split. This one... You go down the line. He listens. At the end he asks, and this one? The one you didn't give him. It's a scar-shaped curl no bigger than a thumbnail. That one's for the ones no one remembered. Even me. He nods and doesn't press. He leaves at sunset, the bell ringing behind him. That night, You melt new metal, but not gold, bronze, a piece of an old cooking pot, a spearhead traded from a northern guard. You pour it into a new mould, one with jagged lines and crooked corners. Not pretty, not perfect, just real. You hang it next to the bell. A second voice, this one lower, more grounded. When the wind blows now, they chime together. Not in harmony, but not in conflict either. Just like the miners who worked shoulder to shoulder, day after day, coughing into silence. In the days that follow, more people come, not for jewellery, for pieces. Someone heard about the scribe's visit. A merchant from the north brings a bone pendant and asks, "Can you melt this into something better?" A child brings a necklace that belonged to her father, lost in a flood near the old southern camp. "Can you turn it into a ring I can wear?" You do, because that's what you do now. You transform. Not just metal, not just grief, but the shape of survival. One afternoon, the village holds a small ceremony, nothing formal, just bread, incense, and a jug of wine passed from hand to hand. At the end, you ring both bells, twice. The villagers fall silent. You don't explain. They understand. Afterward, Beck finds you watching the river. "You never left that place," he says. You nod. "I just brought it with me." He smiles. "You turned it into something worth keeping." You touch the falcon pendant around your neck. Faded now, edges worn smooth, but still there. Still yours. Still true. You never planned to stay this long. When you first stumbled into the village, ribs sharp under your skin and lungs still full of dust, you thought you'd be gone in a week. Maybe 2. Just long enough to drink water that didn't taste like goatskin and let your feet forget the sting of hot quartz. But days turned into weeks, weeks into seasons, and now you've lived here longer than you did in the camp. Your hands, once tools of survival, are tools of memory now. They move with rhythm, not desperation. You've stopped counting days, stopped flinching every time someone raises their voice. You still wake early, but not from fear. The workshop breathes with you. The fire hums, the bell sings, and the wind comes more gently these days. You've added a third bell, this one cast from tin and copper. It's smaller, higher in pitch, and made from the broken earrings of a woman who buried her brother with a lump of stolen ore in his palm. She said he earned it. No one dared to argue. You ring that one when children visit. A soft, hopeful sound. The ghost pieces have spread far now. They're worn around necks, sewn into tunics, hidden in pouches, slipped into graves. You rarely ask where they go anymore. It doesn't matter. What matters is that someone asked, that someone remembered. One morning, as the mist still curls like a shawl over the Nile, a boy runs into your workshop with wide eyes and a shaky voice. There's a man outside, tall, bad arm, covered in dust, said he knows you. You step outside, heart tight in your chest, and there he is. Tehenut. Not a dream, not a ghost. Real. Leaning on a carved staff, face older, eyes still fire-bright. You cross the yard without a word and embrace him. Your shoulder touches the burn mark on his collarbone, the one shaped like a pickhead. You both laugh, even as your eyes well up. He stays a while, sleeps on your floor like he did on the stone ledges back in the camp. He tells stories to the villagers, about the mountain, the overseers, the time you tried to dig through solid basalt because a donkey sneezed nearby and you thought it was a sign. You pretend to be annoyed, but you're not. One night, he watches as you shape a small pendant. A simple coil, open-ended like a journey unfinished. "Who's that one for?" he asks. You smile. You. He doesn't reply, just nods and takes it in silence. Eventually he leaves again, heading south, toward other villages, to find others who escaped. He wants to gather their names, their pieces, their stories. You hand him a cloth satchel. Inside it, 10 blank pendants and a small hammer. "You can make them," you say. He raises an eyebrow. "You trust me with the fire." "You are the fire," he grins, and then he's gone. You ring the bell twice that night. One for his past, one for his future. And now you sit here, in the same quiet room, firelight dancing across your wall, finishing what might be your last ghost piece. It's a mirror, not made of gold, not polished to perfect shine, just metal, softly reflective, enough to see your eyes, and maybe, if someone holds it just right, enough to glimpse all the others, those who dug, who bled, who whispered, who watched. You scratch 3 symbols on the back before you seal it. A flame, a cracked bowl, and a circle, open, unbroken, for memory, for labour, for escape. Then, carefully, you place it in the chest beneath the bell. You close the lid, and you rest. You're not afraid of the ghosts anymore. They've earned their place, just like you have. The fire burns lower now. You sit beside it, legs stretched, fingers still warm from the forge. The tools lie where you left them, quiet, settled. The air smells faintly of bronze and river mist. A soft breeze pushes through the doorway, lifting the edge of your robe, just enough to let you know the night is here. You exhale slowly. Your bones ache, but not from digging, from living. And that's a different kind of ache entirely. The bells above your door chime once, barely louder than a breath. You don't look. You don't need to. You know who it is. They're not here to frighten you, just to listen. You remember every name you ever carved, every mark that meant something to someone who thought they were forgotten. And maybe, you think, that's all anyone really wants. To be remembered. You shift in your seat. Let your head tilt back. Let your eyelids close, just for a while. The wind settles. The ghosts sit beside you. The mountain is far now. The river is close. And the night for once feels like it belongs to you. So sleep now. You made it out. You brought something back, and no one, not even time, can take that away. 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 Can take